live on Facebook, live on Twitter, just waiting for YouTube. Live on YouTube. Let's do it, Kaes.
Let's do it.
G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of the Keeper League podcast. We're the AFL fantasy podcast that doesn't talk about the superstars. We only talk about the lesser knowns and the players who are going to bring value to your draft and Keeper League teams. My name's Heff and I'm joined by special guest this week, Kaes. How you going, mate?
Good, mate. Great to be back in studio, Heff, as always.
Are you still getting used to being referred to as a guest and not co-host?
Look, I would prefer a bit more mayonnaise on top of everything, you know.
I do know you, yes.
Co-creator,
yeah.
Oracle.
Co-founder.
Founder.
Yeah.
All-round
extraordinaire.
Genius, good guy.
Yeah, all that sort of
all
stuff.
That kind of shit.
Yeah, well, I'll make sure I put that in the show doc for
next time.
How you been going? Like, anyway, how's your team been going? You score right this week?
Just fucking second top scorer of the league this week. Just smashing it, really. 3-1.
Who have you lost to so far this season?
This dud coach who was literally celebrating his fourth straight win this week until it did not occur.
That's 100%
until it did
lie.
not occur.
I said it's my best start and I'm well aware that it's not going to continue. I think I said in the chat this week. I thought it might have actually continued. I was looking right until the guy I played had 7 Geelong players, I reckon, in the last game. And it was looking right until half time. And then Geelong just went on a tear. And yeah, ended up losing by about 80 points in the end. So
you forget the best player he's got in his team.
Who's the best player in his team?
Harry Sheasel.
Oh, of course, yeah. And
with the VC loop.
Yeah, VC loop. Well, Captain Sheasel.
Did he have a donut too?
He did have a donut as well.
So you got annihilated. Annihilated.
It was a very hot team, and my team did lay a few goose eggs as well. So
the balloon has burst this week.
I'm missing. What am I missing? Jack Steele. Missing. Danny Rich will come back. He'll be fine. I need a few people in defence.
D-grader.
Nah, I don't know about that. I'll be right.
I've got lots of defenders I can trade you.
Oh, I've got heaps of defenders too. That's my issue. I need some midfielders and some forwards. That's a problem. But I think that's pretty much everyone's problem across the Keeper League land.
Correct.
Anyway, we'll get stuck into the show in a second, but I'd just like to make mention that this show is brought to you by Game Day Squad. Create, coach, and compete in fantasy footy. Basically, this is how it works. You open digital packs and you get cards to make your team instead of selecting a player from the players pool. Different kind of cards have different type of multipliers. Basically, you can go from 1 times their score to 1.5 their fantasy score. You also get free packs each week just for logging in. So, Kaes, you've been playing a little bit. How's your team been going in Game Day Squad?
Not too bad. I haven't checked this weekend. Just been waiting for the
update.
The update.
What's your best card at the moment? What's the player that you're loving to have in your team?
That's a very good question. I actually quite like I haven't played him for a while, but my Platinum Chad Warner is probably my favourite.
Do you find it hard to get him on the field with the cap squad?
With playing cap, yeah. But I've got a few like goldies I really love, like Dan Rioli, Mason Redman, a few of these kind of guys.
A few Keeper League type players?
A few Keeper League players. I picked up a gold Jordan Dawson last night too.
Moved into the midfield the last few weeks. That's pretty handy to own.
Enjoying it.
That's a great thing about the platform is it's a dynasty format. So it's very Keeper League relevant to this podcast because you keep your cards from year to year. You don't get rid of them each year and stuff like that. So yeah, it's fun. It's free. It's easy. Head to gamedaysquad.com.au to have a go at that one. So, open your free weekly packs.
Just checking if I don't know if it's been updated or not, but you're sitting 6th.
Yeah, I think I've got
23rd.
I think the last 2 players I had on my team, which were Dylan Moore and James Sicily, aren't added. So I think I got a couple 60s there, but nothing fancy. So I should be up.
You played today. I had a gold Dylan Moore.
Yeah. So what are you ranked?
23rd.
23rd, not too bad. I'm getting there.
Getting there.
All right, we'll get stuck into the main crux of the show. So we've got some new segments this year. I think people have been enjoying them instead of us going through every round. But we'll start off with the breakout tracking. The first guy I want to talk about, Kaes, is a player that you own and you were crowing about on Saturday night, and that's Oliver Florent.
Yes.
122 points. What did you make of his game?
I've really enjoyed, obviously, watching him a lot closer this year as an owner. Loving his roll-off halfback. looks like they really want the ball in his hands too, which is nice. He's become a bit of a distributor off halfback, obviously taking over the soon-to-be retired Jake Lloyd. But, you know, like him and Nick Blake have been given a bit of dash-out defence. But, yeah, Florent's been really, really good. I've been loving his role and loving his progression.
What's Lloyd ranking now? Is he got top 5 defender?
I don't know, but he's probably less than Florent.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, no, look, he's up to averaging 89 right now, which I think Lloyd's well ahead of. But anyway, 2 of his scores have been in the 70s, so he's not quite at that 2G, 4P category yet. Well, sorry, he's probably 1 week away from it, and he's just showing glimpses, so he's getting there.
Yeah, but look, honestly, if he kicked that game winner on the,
well, in his mind, he did.
Well, it did look good. It dropped really short, just like most of my approach shots into greens. Just, you know, you think they're looking really good, and then next minute they're in the bunker. You know,
so you've had enough of those shots to know he probably hasn't.
Oh, mate,
that's the issue.
Fucking,
that's the issue.
There's no way I had enough wheels getting there. That's for sure.
Anyway, the Oliver Florent's definitely one to look at in the coming rounds. If he can get 2G, 4P status, he might be pretty handy. Mitch Owens had a great game, 115 points. I don't remember how many goals he kicked, but it was a few. But he's been awesome up forward. He kind of plays between like tall and small, so it's like you'd worry about a key forward because he's like 192 centimeters or something like that. So you worry about him, he might be a key forward type, but does play that kind of that roving kind of forward role as well. Plus, we know he's got midfield pedigree as well, so I think it's a no-brainer to pick him up. I think I looked in the waiver pool; he's still kind of lowly owned. I know that's factoring a lot of drafts, and there's a lot of shallow drafts in AFL fantasy, but yeah, he's definitely one to own if you don't have him. I played him on field in my dynasty league this week, and I was pretty happy about that. So
yeah, he's looking really good. I swear someone came out and said, like, I don't know, when St Kilda guys was like, Mitch Owens is going to be like the next big thing. Like,
yeah, he was the one they were liking to Jack Steele, weren't they?
Something like that. But there was another reference, like maybe a really good player, and they're like, yeah, he's actually like the next.
The positive thing is he's just sitting forward this season, not going on the midfield, but still scoring. Like he's his second big scorer, I think, of the year. So he's going all right up there. Speaking of big scorers and young players with potential, Nasiah Wanganeen-Milera finally turned up this season, 107 points. He's just warming into that kind of halfback role. Was on more of a wing last season, but he's taken kick-ins. I think he took the most. Yeah, he did take the most kick-ins for St Kilda. So another young Saint to really get on board.
Do we know what's the comparison? Is this St Kilda team incredibly high scoring fantasy wise compared to other Ross Lyon outfits? I feel that it's you know, there's a lot more points getting around this St Kilda team than, you know, potentially one of the past.
And I think they're giving up points as well at the same time too. So it's pretty fantasy friendly matchup whenever you've got them, I think. And I still haven't watched the Saints properly. Like I watched 3/4 of this one this morning, just a replay of it. But like I still haven't watched them properly, so I'm hard to get a read on what they're doing. But it looks like they're just kind of taking the game on, sharing the ball around, and it looks like a bit of fun for them as well, and they keep winning, so they're going to keep doing it, I think. Trent Rivers, another one of your boys, Kaes. So 103 points. He was actually getting some CBAs this week. I don't think it was huge, but 3 CBAs. Yeah. Traditionally a halfback type. What's your take on his season at the moment?
Well, look, he's just slotted into that halfback, role perfectly. You know, obviously it was Christian Salem most of last year, or at least a couple of years before, and we saw Jake Bowie, whichever way you want to say it. Do a good job in that role last year. Obviously, he's gone to absolute shit now because Trent Rivers has taken over that mantle. But yeah, he's the one who's kind of jumped. I think I said it last time I was on the pod. Like, when he first hit the scene, we were all, like, Trent Rivers is going to be amazing. And then
the junior fantasy,
and then
massive.
He was good junior. Started his season, started his career really well, and then just kind of fell away a bit. But he's kind of hit back as a fourth year resurgence. And look, to be honest, like, I know Christian Salem's, I think he's had a knee op now or something like that, and he's only going to be halfway through the season, but he's going to have to fight pretty hard to get his spot back because, Rivers is playing some really, really good footy and, taking the game on and doing what we like to see from a fantasy point of view.
All right, move on to one of your Essendon boys, Kaes, Sam Draper. 103 points. Phillips was a late in to this game, which was crazy anyway, because a guy that was playing became the sub. But anyway, was a late out and became the sub.
Don't mess with
whatever the rules,
genius.
Whatever the rules are. But look,
Brad Scott, whichever Scott it is, I don't know.
The one that coaches your team.
Yeah, the Essendon Brad Scott, Chris Scott. Fuck, I don't know.
I think it's Brad, the one that coaches you. But anyway, look, Phillips came in late and it worked. They just worked Flynn into the ground as a tandem. But what it was good for Draper, I guess, he sat forward a bit and he was actually pretty serviceable up there. Took a few grabs, had a few shocking shots at goal as well, but also kicked the goal. He's just a player that has shown so much promise, needs to back it up. You reckon he's still got it in him?
I've never been a massive fantasy Sam Draper guy.
Yeah.
I think he's more heart and soul player as opposed to a prolific fantasy scorer.
There's not a lot
I don't
of
think
rucks
he's going to
anyway.
be. But I don't think he's ever going to be like a top 10 ruck.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think I think he's going to be a bit in and out. And yeah, he's very impactful, but I don't think he's as consistent as you want someone being. Obviously, he's still young and can evolve, but he's not really one of my guys from a fantasy point of view. But do love the passion he plays footy with for the Dons.
As a Bombers fan, I'll take your word for it because I'm not watching him close enough to really comment. Noah Cumberland had 102 points. Now, he came on the sub last week and was super lively. I actually got a mention on the show last week, despite his low score being the sub, just how lively he was when he did come on. What do you make of his game?
Really, really good. It was kind of good to see them. I know Cochin ended up being sub, but the kind of younger guys they brought in this week, Sonsi did some good things. Cumberland did some good things, and Ralph Smith played really well too. So I love Noah Cumberland. He's that kind of hybrid type forward.
Yeah, he kind of can play tall, play
probably needs to put on
thing.
a bit of size to be really, hardened AFL week in, week out, but definitely looks like he's got some fantasy talent. And
he's had a good start to his career.
Yeah, and can kind of play that high half forward role, which we know can be very fruitful if played well.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got the watch. He's on my watch list. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Not 100% sold, but there's been some definite potential there over his early few games. That's for sure. Cam Rayner was back forward this week, and weirdly enough, we always thought moving into defence this year that it would be better for his fantasy scoring. He scored heaps better playing up forward again. So he did kick 4 goals to get to his 99 points on the weekend. Is it sustainable, Kaes?
I don't know. I've never really been a big Cam Rayner believer.
Yeah. I was last year when he was getting midfield time. But
did take 4 goals to get that 99. That's probably my query. He's not going to kick 4 each week. And the game he played on whatever night it was Thursday night, was actually sensational. Probably the best game I've seen him play. And if it's the best game he's ever played, really, and he's only scoring 99, that's a bit of a worry. If he knocked out a 120, 130, you might be like, oh, this guy's really got it together. But I think he's probably more of a quality over quantity.
Yeah, I agree. Like if he comes out next week, backs up with another one, I'll start to believe. But I'm not quite there just yet. Hunter Clark had 95 points. He has been used he was used in the midfield. I think it's 24% of the CBAs after being 39% last week. Just in a game, I think. Well, first of all, it's really good to see Hunter Clark actually come out and put up a good score, and we actually get a decent run at football. I think that's been his biggest issue out of everything, is just playing some consecutive games. Yeah. But we know his fantasy pedigree. This is a really fantasy-friendly game again, so I'm still hopeful, but I just don't think it's we can't just be super kind of sold on Hunter Clark just yet. But the signs are there, is what I'm trying to say. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's always had that ability. He's just been super unlucky with injuries and those kind of impact injuries, not necessarily the soft tissue ones. Yeah. So, obviously helps that Jack Steele's out and gives him a bit more of a role there. But look, I've been bullish on him since kind of day one, and just kind of glad he's got that continuity together this season.
We'll move on to West Coast. Jaden Hunt had 95 points. That's back-to-back good scores for Jaden Hunt. What I've kind of noticed is he's kind of kicked Andrew Gaff off of his wing. And if I'm not mistaken, I'll double-check this, but I think Gaff was used a lot more on the inside. Yeah, 57% of the CBAs this week, so a huge bump. That's 25 to 32% bump in the CBAs there for Gaff. So it's pushed him back into the middle, and it's kind of like they've gone, well, we need some... Well, this is what I've been saying for the last few weeks. They're traditionally a pretty slow side, West Coast, and Hunt's just come in and he's providing that run that's really helped them on that wing. And I don't see him slowing down. I don't see an 100-plus average, but I think he could average around that 80 mark if he keeps going with this, because I think they're a player he wants to use. Do you agree?
Oh, totally. And this season that he's put together so far, and we saw the glimpses of it in the pre-season, and he was a guy I was keen to get involved in just off those games. Looking back on his stats, 2017, he averaged 72.5 from 22 games, and that was probably peak Jaden Hunt when he was that prime mover off the halfback flank for Melbourne, and we kind of see him wing halfback a bit, playing that same ball user kind of role. And I think that's where his scores come from.
He's kicking goals too.
Yeah,
he's always kicked goals each game.
And I think he's always shown it. It's just like the role that he played at Melbourne was just so team accountable, and he never got that flair because you've had guys like Brayshaw and you've had guys like Salem back there and other really good guys on the wing like Langdon. Yeah. Now he's kind of come into a team where they don't really have a lot of that experience or quality on there. Yeah. And he's just making the most of it. So, he averaged 72 in 2017 and 77 so far this year. I think that's minimum. I reckon he can push that 80, 85.
Yeah, I think the 70 should be the benchmark for him, and he should push up to that 80 mark if he keeps going like this.
Totally.
Just depends on circumstances, who comes in, who comes out, that sort of thing. I think Chesser came out as well, so that was less kind of rotation there. Just got a bit more, but
there's still a lot of those kids that I don't think they're not going to be able to play week in, week out. So he's 28 and he's that perfect kind of age bracket to. A guy who should be around that team for another, 2, 3, 4 years. And,
agree. While they
fits
guys
in nicely.
Yeah. Isaac Rankin, I think I have to make him too good for the podcast. He's scored 92 points on the weekend. What have you been doing
the last 4 weeks?
Well, no, because the issue is we just keep going like, well, he's playing that forward role, not as enough midfield for us. But, if he doesn't kick goals, he's not going to score. Like, the issue is he just keeps kicking goals. So we've just got to make him too good for the podcast.
He's almost evolved past that where he's bloody an excellent footballer.
Yeah, just keeps kicking goals, keeps putting those scores up, so we're going to have to make him 2G4P, I think.
Tick him off.
Riley Thilthorpe. I copped a lot of grief in our group chat about Riley Thilthorpe, purely because I said one day I think he'll be the number 1 ruck. I said one day. That was my exact quote.
Didn't you tweet that as well?
No, I didn't. I retweeted something that said Riley Thilthorpe looks like he could move into the number 1 ruck role this year. And then they've got our group chat's gone, Heff said he's going to be the number 1 ruck this year.
It was nice to get something right?
Yeah.
I think that was
I said in the future. I didn't say when, like this year. Okay. But anyway.
Big brave call from Heff. One day Riley Thilthorpe might be a good player.
Well, he's already moving into that ruck role as kind of the backup this weekend.
How many hit-outs do you have on the weekend?
Not a heap, but when he was around, I think he had 8 or 9, but when he was around the ground is when he kind of did a lot of his scoring. So, yeah, I don't think he kicked. I think he kicked 1 goal, maybe, but a lot of it was just taking marks around the ground, like when he was in the ruck and, just getting kicks around the ground and stuff like that. So, yeah, not winning the contest, but, definitely scoring and, picking marks. So, 9 marks and a goal is what he had. So, pretty decent outing for Riley Thilthorpe, and just genuinely looks good around the ground. So he's kind of starting to make that evolution into the number 1 ruck role.
So we got 41, 74, 92. Yeah, it's solid scoring.
Yeah,
I just don't know if he's number 1 ruck material just yet.
Not yet, but in the future,
okay. I think. When you think
about Strawn, he looks like a giraffe when he's out there. Rob already looks like a giraffe, and I think the fans don't want him in there. Like, I feel like they want him out, and they want Thilthorpe in full time anyway. So, yeah, we'll see how we go. But
Heff, you know that the fans don't get what they want. You've been a Port supporter long enough to know that's not what happens.
Yes, we keep getting gaslighted into thinking we're the idiots. And the board is way ahead of us. But anyway, that's an issue with our supporters and our club at the moment. Judson Clark is the next one I want to talk about. I didn't watch this game, but he scored 90 points. In the preseason, he played on the wing. Like, for both preseason games, he played pretty much 100% on the wing. Was this the case on the weekend or not?
He was a bit of a utility on the weekend. Okay. But once again, another one of these young Tigers that they've blooded really nicely over this week, I should say. But there's a lot of talk around him, I think, internally in the club that a lot of people think he's a very, very good player. So he might be one that's very much flying under some radars.
I think so too.
That people should be looking out for.
Yeah.
I'm not, is forward status, I think?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So we know that they can be tough. And look, the Tigers played reasonably well on Saturday, considering they lost.
Yeah.
Lynch will probably be out this week. What will they do with Cochin, etc. like that? But they might come to that tipping point soon where they're like, what are we doing? Like, are we in a bit of a mini rebuild? Or not a rebuild because they've got Hopper and Taranto.
Do we want to blood some youth?
Guys like Cochin
already on the subs.
Cochin, Rewalt. What are you doing with a guy like maybe Cameron McIntosh is rough, but like that kind of player.
No, I think that's valid. He's one you'd probably want to just try something else with.
Yeah.
So and he's someone like you could move out and play Clark in his position.
Correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
The thing is, I was spruiking him in the preseason, I'd say pick him up late because I think when he comes in, I reckon they've got a midfield role earmarked for him one day if you could stash him away, like a wing kind of outside role earmarked for him that might be fantasy friendly. The guy I'm playing this week has Lynch, who got injured and probably suspended. Was that right? I didn't see this game.
I think he's gone through a tribunal.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, he's probably going to put Judson Clark on this week and probably beat me with Judson Clark on it in this side. So yeah,
interesting.
We'll see what happens, but I might be going too early on Judson Clark. But I just rate him really highly.
Yeah, look, he's one for me that might kind of be another year or two away from really popping, but I think he's one you should be having on your radar.
Yeah, I agree. Liam Stocker had 88 points. It was just good to see him bounce back after a low week last week. I think he's just a product of a system that's working. St Kilda seem to cut off a lot of the footy like late in their defence, you know what I mean? Like teams kind of go attack and someone chops in and takes out the mark. And then it's generally move the ball very quickly sideways and then attack from there. And I think like a lot of these St Kilda defenders are getting kind of some decent pill just being chipped around a bit in the back line before they attack. So yeah, Liam Stocker's definitely a product of that. For that reason, like I don't mind him as an option. I know in drafts he's probably already picked up, but the thing is he might be like if you play like us with no waiver wires, he might be left in a pool somewhere. So I reckon if you can get him in a mid-season draft or something like that, Liam Stocker I think is going to keep putting up decent scores every now and then. I reckon like there will be low ones like last week, but I think Stocker is one that can put up good ones from time to time. Lockie Ash had 89 points. Kaes, one of your boys. He said it was Ash season. Started very lean the first couple rounds. Put up back-to-back good scores. Yep. What's your take on him?
We all know Ash season doesn't really start until it gets a bit cooler, and like it's been a bit of a warmer autumn so far. Okay. So the colder it is, that's when Ash season really starts to bloom.
Okay, is there any saying like any reasoning behind that? I think Ash,
no, I think he's actually just settled into that role.
I associate Ash with hotter things,
and they've figured out. No, it's like it's a bit opposite world where we live in Ash season. Yeah, but I think he's just settling into that role now. It kind of took him a week or two to find his feet, and
that's fair.
But he looks to have kind of found that niche, and I think that, what do you have, 88 on the weekend? 89. I think that's like nice little strike zone for him. I don't think those 120 days what we saw previously, just because they've got a lot of those similar guys back there. Yeah. But I think that's a nice little level where Lucky Ash will sit for the rest of the year.
Does it again next week. He's auto 2G 4P.
Heck yeah.
Hugo Rouse-Smith didn't see the game. What was your take on his game?
Impressive off half-back. There was this play, and I think they highlighted it on Fox Footy. It was like Sonsi led the tackle, fed it out to Ralph Smith. He ran through, got it onto Clark or someone like that. So a lot of those guys linking. But yeah, Ralph Smith, one of those guys similar to Rioli, just takes the game on with his foot speed. Yeah. And I think that's what the Tigers need, just a bit of that line breaking speed off half-back to, cut through a few teams.
Always looked like a fantasy type, especially like early last year and things like that. So if he can progress, and he might be one of those players that kind of comes in and gets a bit more of a run in the next few weeks. Mm-hmm. Finn Callaghan traded him out in Classic, damn it, and then he scored 88 points. Good to see him just do this in full strength, in a full strength team. I think round one he scored pretty well because everyone got injured and he started getting CBAs and stuff. But he bounced back from his last 2 weeks where he kind of did his shoulder and just lean last week. He's a good user of the ball, good decision maker. Like I noticed like his vision is quite good. Like he'll hit kicks that I wouldn't even, you wouldn't even think players are there, and he'll hit them up type thing. So I think he's a player that they really want to, get him into this side, and make him a pivotal part of it pretty quickly.
Totally. Love him. Love the way he goes about it. I think he's one of those guys similar to Ash or, and probably, Tanner Bruin's a bad example because he ended up getting dropped. But like these are these guys who we've talked about all preseason who are, we think are going to break out this year. And you get a lot of that classic noise going on. They're shit because they're not hitting these ridiculous marks that those guys thought they were. But from a keeper league point of view, like just have a bit of patience with someone like Callaghan. And I think, as you can see on the weekend, he's going to build from that. And, hopefully by the end of this season, he kind of gets to that level where we kind of pegged him at the preseason. But just takes a few, weeks, months to kind of few of these guys to get into their rhythm.
Do you reckon he's more of an outside player? A lot of people seem to think he's got some inside game to him. Do you think he gets a run in that midfield ever?
For me, he looks a lot like Josh Kelly in terms of like his, that size,
Kelly's
his
another
movement.
one. Kelly does get moved to the outside a bit.
And that's what I mean. He's probably, for me, he can be that guy who can kind of go in or out. And, Josh Kelly's scoring can fluctuate a bit, but realistically he's pretty consistent. And even when he does play outside, he still scores pretty well too. So, I just think guys like that who use the footy really well, they're the kind of players that teams will look to, to be their distributors or their main ball movers. So, big ticks for Finn Callaghan.
The fantasy world's been pretty quiet on the Zote, Zach Guthrie. I think it was probably one of his, I think it was his best score of the year today, playing against Hawthorn. I don't know how much you can count that. But 87 points. Tom Stewart was taken out of the game really, and he kind of just mopped up in his absence, being tagged out of it essentially. What's your take on Guthrie? Do you reckon he can do this more regularly, or do you reckon it's kind of a week-to-week proposition with him?
Yeah, I just think he's kind of sitting in a bit of no man's land at the moment. Like he's never going to get dropped because he plays his role really well, but also he's not going to ever have that super fantasy-friendly role.
Duncan came in this week and just went bananas as well, but he still scored okay. But I don't know, maybe that takes the pressure off him. I don't know.
I don't know what Guthrie's average is this year, but like for me, he's kind of a guy who you know, if he's your D5, it's fine because he might put up a 85, 90 each week, but I don't think he's going to get less than like a 60, that kind of thing.
Yeah. He plays the right type of game. Yeah. But, probably just not as consistent as people thought he might be, given how he finished last year. Cozzy Pickett, 87 points. He backed up round one, didn't go as huge, obviously, but that forward and midfield time, I guess, is kind of real. He's only one game away from 2G4P, so I don't think we need to really discuss it too much. We just let it play out and see what happens. But, yeah, signs are good for Cozzy Pickett. Jake Saligo, 87 points. He might get a sneaky forward status coming up. Well, he kicked 2 goals on the weekend, and just looking at the wings, like he's starting up there at some of them, but yeah, he seems to be getting a lot of the ball inside 50 and kicking a few goals here and there as well. So I'm not sure how the starting positions actually work out, but the 2 times that I've actually got to watch the Crows in depth this year, just noticed him in the forward line a lot. So yeah,
he's a good player.
Just keep right.
He's a very good player.
Still scoring well if he is playing up forward. So yeah, not going too badly. Xavier Dersma had 86 points. He just had a solid game on the wing. It's just a player that would really need to back it up. Just like Port Adelaide, really. Just needs to back it up before I can get any excitement.
I watched that game on the weekend and it didn't really impress me. Yeah. Like in terms of like, it wasn't like, oh man, Dersma's doing some really good
place,
stuff.
Right time with a few marks and stuff like that. Yeah. And a few like good contested marks and stuff like that, but nothing really fancy.
No.
Yeah, so
Agreed.
I don't know. Didn't break the game open or anything like that. So yeah, I'm not getting excited. Just could even be a tip at the cap. I don't know. Maybe it's a bit harsh. It's too young for that.
You're too bitter.
Too young for that. Will Powell, 86 points. Again, another one we don't really need to talk about because we have raved about him for years. We just need him to see him, A, not get injured, and B, just put up some scores consistently.
Almost in the Hunter Clark mould.
Yes, absolutely.
Where, you know, we know he can be a good player and a good scorer. Just needs to actually string some games together.
Speaking of good players, Josh Rochelle.
How's he not been to... What do you guys do on this podcast when I'm not here?
Again, we're saying he's too goal dependent on that, so he probably should be too good for the podcast as well.
Jeez, these other bloody guest hosts got no idea.
Oh, no.
You're not strict enough. You got 2 G4P guys.
No, because when we see like guys playing forward roles and relying on goals to get a bulk of their scoring, in an Adelaide side that shouldn't be that good...
Guys are relying on too much data. There's not enough gut feel in this podcast anymore.
I don't know about that. But no, like he really should be because like he just keeps kicking goals and that's how he gets like those 86 points. Like if he doesn't kick those 3 goals, he's scoring in the 50s type thing. So it's Adelaide going to keep winning and scoring well. That's basically how it works.
I don't know. He just looks hungry for goals, which is always nice.
I think
like, he's like, you know, Toby Green. Like Toby Green doesn't leave too many games without kicking 2 or 3.
Toby Green isn't too good for the podcast either.
Well, but you know, he's the guy. He's the guy.
Yeah.
How many people are delisting Toby Green at the end of the year? No one. Who's delisting Josh Rochelle? No one. 2 G4P him. Come on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Why do I have to keep coming on being the voice of reason on this podcast?
That means we won't have any players to talk about, really. We don't need to be talking about the players that are left in our pool, really.
And then the 22 guys that play for Port as well.
Yeah, they can all go. Chase Jones, 85 points. I don't know. Was he just filling the Pedler void this week? Yeah, so a lot of people are pretty excited about him. But
in my mind, there's no way Luke Pedler doesn't come straight back in.
And just goes out for him, especially So a winning side, it's hard to drop people in the first place. You figure you just drop the guy that came in for him and played a similar type role.
Last in, first out.
He had 17 kicks at 86%, so he wasn't bad. But yeah, I think he might just be unlucky this week. Peter Laddams had 84 points. He's just been pretty handy this year, given that he's given like an extended crack at the number 1 role. Yep. Everyone's worried about Hickey coming back in, but I think for Sydney's development, they've just got to keep playing Laddams as the ruck, I reckon, because next year that's what it's going to be anyway.
It'd be interesting to see. Hickey's still a while away, isn't he? I think so. Fitness-wise.
Yeah, he might even retire before this happens, especially if Sydney keep losing.
Don't know.
So I don't
know. Laddams has been solid without being breathtakingly amazing or anything like that. Like,
yeah. Well, he would have turned up round 1 if he didn't get subbed out. So he should have a higher average than he did. So I think he got subbed out in 75. So
speaking of that game, is Scott Lysett back on the pod?
Yeah, he should be actually, but he's not scoring enough to even be talked about. So
God.
Yeah, B2P him in a second.
To him?
Year out and he's 30 now.
Jeremy Finlayson's almost like your number 1 ruck.
No, Jeremy Finlayson was too handy up forward this week. Kicked 3 goals.
Played very well.
Cam Zerha, 82 points. After raving about him last week, he backed it up for me. He's getting pretty close to off the podcast. He's getting used a lot in the midfield now. He's a really good clearance player. The thing, what he scored so well this week, though, is just he scored 3 goals and kicked 4 and 1 out in the full, maybe even 2 out in the full. So he should have had a massive day, really. But look, he's playing some midfield time, kicking goals.
I love his role this year.
Yeah,
I don't know why he wasn't playing it last year or even the year before. Like, his body's built for it. Like, he looks like a clearance beast. And, David Noble or whatever Was David Noble?
Yeah,
yeah.
last year.
I don't know what the fuck he was thinking.
Yeah, no, Clarko comes in, brings some sense to the game.
I could coach an AFL team. It seems pretty easy.
And Darcy Tucker had a full game playing on the wing, so he had 79 points. So he's listed as a forward, so he could be in a few waiver wires given he didn't start round one. And if you're playing shallow leagues, they drop him back and things like that. So keep your eye on him because he could be a pretty handy forward contributor if you can get him. We'll talk about the rookies and the debutants this week. So I guess the debutant was Bailey Humphrey was the debutant, 47 points. Looked a little lost in that game, but I think give him some time, he should be pretty handy. Ned Moyle also debuted.
My boy.
Scored 74 points, but 33 points of those were when Marshall
I was going to say, I was following the score and I was like, Ned Moyle was on 20 for heaps of the game. And then I was like, I wonder what he ended up scoring. And then it was like 70. I was like, shit, how'd he get there?
That's how little St Kilda rated him, I think, because they were just like, we'll just take our ruckman off and let him just do his thing for the last quarter and we'll still be fine. So, don't know what to make of it. Like, good scoring debut. It's going to look great on the breakout tracker. But, I don't know if I'll be reading too much into it, which was only out with soreness as well. So he should come straight back in.
I obviously didn't watch the game. Did you watch any of it? Or did you see bits? Did he look likely? Because his VFL stats are pretty good.
Yeah, he looked like it wasn't awful, but he looked like outclassed by Marshall, obviously.
Well, it's probably a tough first game matchup.
Yeah. But anyway, Will Ashcroft, 76 points. Like, he really should be 2G, 4P because no one's going to drop him back to waivers or anything like that. But I feel like he has killed some of the other scorers and probably isn't going as big as he should, just given the spread of midfielders. Like, look at McCluggage is out on the wing a lot more.
Yep.
Now, Dunkley is just, I don't even know what Dunkley's doing. Like, he's in the midfield, but he's playing more of an accountable role.
Dunkley from a fantasy point of view is bad news.
Yeah, don't love it at the moment, so be interesting to see what happens there. But I think Will Ashcroft is probably not scoring as well as he should because he's sharing with players like Dunkley and that, and then he's also bringing those guys down at the same time. So interesting to think about. Matthias Philippou actually got a run in the midfield this week, had a few CBAs, so just monitor that. His scoring definitely jumped up as well. It seems like there's some sort of trend with CBAs and scoring on the whole case. We talked about Bailey Humphrey. Dylan Williams as well, second game. So
he just looked okay.
Yeah.
I just kind of think, what's he doing? Like, you've got Riley Bonner, Darcy Byrne-Jones, all these other blokes playing in the twos, and you've just got some forward playing back. Like,
Bonner's been training as a midfielder, like a winger this year, so he's being held out there. With I think Williams
up on the weekend.
Yeah, Williams has been training, I guess, moving to a halfback role. He wasn't quick enough up forward, but I don't know. You need to be kind of quick to be a halfback flanker as well. But anyway, it looked better than he did last time.
He was fine. I was just kind of.
He had a good game
confused.
without like scoring well fantasy wise, but yeah, commentators were raving about him, and I thought he was solid for a guy playing his second game as well.
Yeah, definitely didn't look out of place.
Some of the B2P players, so these are guys that have come back to the pod recently. What we were saying, we're going to bring Lysette back to the pod. You reckon?
If you don't, there's something wrong with this podcast.
Yeah, probably should come back. Jake Stringer's a B2P after last season. He had 93 points. He was back in a big way. Interesting thing, he only had 2 centre bounce attendances and kicked 3 goals. So playing as a forward, I guess like last few years you've kind of used him in predominantly as a forward, but just go in there to do some clearance work. But I think Setterfield takes that kind of out of him, and he just sits forward. But it could be good for his game to make him less gassed and just kick a few more up there. So I don't know. Jake Stringer, he's just back in a big way. Monitor that one. Toby Green.
What's he on back to pod for?
What, Jake Stringer?
Toby Green.
Because he averaged 70 something last year.
74.4.
74. Yes, that brings him back to pod. I think and he did have a 20 something last week as well.
That was just a bad game.
Yeah. I think we'd make him too good for the podcast.
118, 89, and 96.
Yeah, we have to make it.
I think that's called an outlier. I'm not great with stats, Heff, as you know, but I think that's an outlier.
It is an outlier.
Thank you.
You're right. I think we just needed to see one more good game before we can tick that one off. But I think we can tick off too good for the podcast for Toby Green. He's back. I think being captain just revitalised him. Does what he wants a bit more. Goes in the midfield a bit more. Leads from that front a bit more.
I like it a lot.
Jarman Impey at 89 points. He's got a pretty good role and looks. He was pretty shit in the first half, but the second half when they were getting pumped, he was probably one of the best. I don't even know. I can't even find better players in there. Yeah. But he's got a good role. Looks reasonably safe. I know Bramble's trying to fight his way back in there. Scrimshaw's in and out. But he takes kick-ins as well, so that's handy. Little bump for his scoring there. End up with 89 this week. So
he's got back to that form a couple of years ago where he was actually playing similar to this.
I think his worst score this year is like 68 or something like that. So,
and that's fine.
Yeah, he's going right.
D5.
Generally 70s, but then today popped out an 89, so not too bad. Jordan Ridley, B2P, but he probably should be 2G, 4P again. He just looks so much better with Zerk Thatcher doing defensive work for him, so he can kind of get off the chain a little bit, so he'd 82 points. And I think with Seb Ross too, you've just got to keep riding that wave with Jack Steele out of the side because he's had a bit of a bump over the last few weeks. Maybe try to sell high on him perhaps because, I think when Steele comes back, he might struggle given that he wasn't even in the side in the early rounds when Steele was playing. So, just keep that in mind. Before we move on to the next part of the show, I just want to thank our members. So if you're interested in supporting the show, keeping the podcast going and ensure it happens from year to year, please sign up and become a member. A lot of work does go into producing this. So with the members, it allows us to take the time to actually get this podcast running and going and keep it moving forward. If you do become a member, you'll get our CBA analysis numbers, kick-in numbers, State League fantasy scores. Kaes' great article uses those each week. Also access to the Breakout Tracker, which I'm managing to. I've got a new method of updating, which means I can update it on Sunday nights, Monday nights straight away. I don't have to wait till other stats come out and stuff like that. So it's pretty handy. It's already updated. No, it's not. I was updating it when you messaged me that you were coming early. So it's be done after this podcast. Thank you to the gold members. Actually, I'll let you read them out, Kaes. They're just up on my screen here if you need to.
Right, got them. Daniel Paradiso, Ethan Bennell, Gerald Rayner, Ben Fraser, David Larkham, Joe D, Bonzalo Piguan, Kyle Petty, Daniel Della Primavera, and Matt Turkic.
Some tricky names there, so I thought I'd let you have them. Good to see Joe Danaher. I'm pretty sure who that is, Joe D.
Joe Danaher.
Signing up to the show, so another celebrity. We talked about Footy Rhino, like Ryan Daniels last week.
Really? He's on board.
He's been a member for years, actually. He's been one of the first. He's like a founding member.
What a great bloke.
Really supports us.
What a great bloke.
But so thanks to all the members out there, especially the gold ones that we just mentioned. But you can also support the podcast in other ways. Just follow our YouTube channel, get around us on Twitter, retweet our stuff, like our stuff, help it go up the charts and things like that. So
help pay for Heff's blue tick.
What? You're such a tall poppy syndrome type of guy, Kaes. You just hate anyone moving up in the world, don't you?
I've got no issues with you moving up in the world, but don't pay for your blue tick, mate.
Yeah, the blue. Well, you don't get them any other way anymore. That's the problem. And the blue tick is required for any video over 2 minutes.
What videos are you posting over 2 minutes?
Well, there's quite a few that I put up there.
You personally?
Well, not the personal, but I've put it on the main pod as well. Also,
why doesn't the pod have a blue tick then?
It does.
Does it?
Yeah, both. Yeah, it's a package deal, business deal.
Okay.
And also, you need it for your Twitter post to appear in the For You section. They don't otherwise, so you can't reach new followers.
It's fine.
It's very important to have
I
it.
keep getting new followers like every day. I think they're bots, but still.
We'll move on to the Mr. Consistent section here. These are the guys that are probably never going to be too good for the podcast, but really handy to own for when they pop up. Charlie Cameron is the first one, 107 points, 6 goals. We basically fight every year over drafting him. Neither of us got him this year.
No.
Yeah.
We've both had him the last few years. Though.
Yeah. When he kicks goals, he scores pretty well, and this is no exception. Probably have a 50 next week, but I don't know. Brisbane might get on a roll, and he might be okay. Now, Callum Wilkie, he's had 2 big scores in a row. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of like Stocker I was talking about before, product of a good system, and the game style allows him to score.
I was just looking at that. 13 of their players scored 80 plus on the weekend.
Yeah,
and they had 7 guys ton up. So that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I know it's Gold Coast are an easy one to score against as well, so it does a lot of things going right.
Still, that's next level.
Yeah. And back-to-back scores, the thing with Wilkie was like playing on taller players. Like at one stage, I saw him at King. One stage, he was on Lakosha's. Mm-hmm. But he just kind of run off and join in that link up when they did get the ball.
Yep.
And he was just kind of running off them. They weren't really going after him. Mm-hmm. So, and he took a few intercept marks as well, which was quite good. Was he a mature age player, like a late pickup?
Yeah, he came from the Sandful, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, right. So it was a pretty good pickup there for Wilkie. But I think, he's just settling into that system. And he's scoring pretty well at the moment. So, yeah. Brent Daniels, he's one of your boys, Kaes. 95 points.
I don't know why he's in Mr. Consistent. He should be in the Breakout Tracker area.
How old is he?
I've just got his stats up now. He is 24.
I guess that kind of does fit.
24, injury affected years.
Yeah. I just don't think he's ever going to be too good for the podcast. That's why I just don't have him there.
Look, he's come off a massive injury and he's busted 66, 59, 72, 95.
Might move in there if he shows some more consistency.
I like him so much, he's in my classic team, Heff.
Yeah, but your classic team's a fucking rabble.
Yeah, we're a bunch of tries. We give our best week in, week out.
That is not a compliment. If you're in your classic team, that's a reason not to
Mate, he's gone up fucking 58 grand this week.
Yeah, sure. 58 grand.
He did.
Okay, cool. Is that open, is it? Sweet. I'll look at that up.
Just is the footy wire.
Okay. Ben Ainsworth, 94 points. I didn't start him this week.
Why not?
I was
You said your forward line's
I
fucking
know.
tough, and he's...
came down to him and Archie Perkins because I hold Danaher on. I don't usually start Danaher. I had to take one off.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I know. I thought Archie Perkins might go all right this week against GWS, but it didn't really happen.
You deserve to lose. You've made some horrible decisions.
It's his 100th game
week.
too. I wish I knew that beforehand because I think he really lifted for it. But yeah, Ainsworth is a very consistent player. We'll always get you around the 70 mark. He'll average mid-70s. So yeah, definitely own him if you can. Mitch McGovern had 89 points. He got injured, did he? Or he's going to be out for a bit. Is that right?
I don't think so, did he?
Or did he get suspended? Or am I just getting mixed up?
I don't know.
Anyway, Mitch McGovern is pushing towards that
he's been great for
80 average. That we talked about 70, but he's averaging 79. So we projected a 70 average. He's averaging 79. So
very nice.
He's scoring pretty well at the moment.
Very nice.
Don't know if he'll ever be 2G, but he's getting close. Bailey Fritsch and Alex Neil-Bullen, they probably should be tip of the caps, but they always score well when they're beating up on lesser teams. No, they're consistent. They're hand down.
Solid.
Yeah, they're solid players. Jacob Wiedering as well. We talk about him every week. Like, he had 85 points on the weekend. He's averaging 78 now. So, when he gets freed up, like we talked about, he's got a bit of support there, like McGovern and stuff back there. He gets off and takes a few more marks and things like that. He doesn't have to lock down as much. So, yeah, Wiedering is a good one to own. And Jack Silvani, talked about him last week as well. 83 points and only scored a goal. He kind of, with Kerno and Mackay, like he might be a bit quieter this week because he might have to play taller. But he is just allowed to kind of just roam a bit more and do his own thing. And that just results in him getting a few marks further up the ground and stuff like that.
I feel against the Crows this week, that's probably a good matchup for him.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just that he'll probably have to play, like he'll get a decent defender this week out of Murray and who's the other one? Butts and Duday.
Yeah, because what's his name? Suspended.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking he might actually get... And he might have to play closer to goal.
I retract my
this
statement.
week. Yeah, instead of just roaming around. Tip of the caps. So these are the guys who scored well but don't expect it regularly. Graham Myers had 102 points. Half forward, just Geelong absolutely dominant. It was a feast for Geelong players today. Jack Higgins had 114 points but 5 goals there. He might be more of a consistent type, but... I don't know. I think we just expect so much more of Jack Higgins, just given where he's come from and what he's done in the past. Jeremy Finlayson had 101 points. That was on the back of 3 goals. Got to remember this is in a game where both of the opposition key defenders got injured in by half time. They were down by.
Yep.
So, and that's probably led to Port winning as well, actually.
Correct.
Being that happening. So,
and dodgy umpiring.
That too. When Port had the worst free kick differential, or third worst free kick differential.
You realise that free kick differential is not actually a thing.
I know, but there were some bad calls both ways.
There were some horrible calls both ways.
Yeah. So, I think, we've definitely got a bad rub over the last 3 weeks, but I think you exacerbate it when it's your own team anyway. Tom McDonald, 99 points, kicked 4 goals. Not expecting that every week. Don't even know if he's in the side 100%, but he's going okay. Went okay last week. Oscar Allen, same deal. 89 points, 3 goals.
Oscar Allen?
Maybe.
Missed all of last year.
It's the key forward factor. It's the key forward factor for me.
Yeah, you are against you. It's just sad.
Is he going to be a better player than Josh Kennedy? And is he going to be a better player than Jack Darling? So guys that are rarely, maybe too good for the podcast, 1 or 2 seasons of their career.
No.
Yeah, so that's why I've got him there. Lewis Young, 88 points, took 10 marks. Kaes' old theory about 10 marks for defenders.
And it works.
It works. Because it's guaranteed 60 points minimum.
Well, take the marks then.
Curtis Taylor, 83 points. He was forward, kicked a goal, rolls up to the wing, so he gets a nice roll every now and then. And he can put up scores like this, but yeah, don't expect it too often. Sam Collins, I had a point to make about Sam Collins, 86 points. Oh, he's playing on Community. Is that how you say it? Community? Community, yeah. So young key forward. Community, I can't even say his name. Did kick 2 goals though. But yeah, I think it was just more experience playing on him, so that helped him there. Jack Buckley played on resting rucks, so he scored 82 points. So that kind of helped him there for GWS. And Lockie Schultz pops up every now and then. 2 goals, 6 tackles on the forward line in a very kind of contested day. So yeah, 81 points there. So again, scored well, but don't expect it each week. On to a few of the fossils. So these are the veterans that you should look to try to get if you're contending. Now, Nick Haynes is still, I guess, in keeper leagues and stuff like that, it's hard to pick up someone who's in the waivers if you don't play waivers. 126 points. Like, he was reborn, was his saying.
He was reborn.
Well, he had some health issues, chronic fatigue and stuff like that, which he reckons he is over now.
Right.
He took 17 marks, and he's one game away from being auto too good for the podcast. So if he's on your waiver wires or if someone, I guess he's only 30 though, so he's probably
He
still
had
got a few
that
more
run.
years.
He had that run a couple of years ago where he was actually.
I'm pretty sure he was all Australian, or at least all Australian squad. Like he was close.
Just from a bloody fantasy point of view, he was very good.
Yeah. So he's not the worst option, and if he is reborn, get on board. Brad Hill had 106 points. He's just playing on the wing, but pushed forward and kicked 2 goals. He's got the back forward status. Like that's what you want in keeper leagues, especially this year when no one has utilities anymore.
Yep.
You want to play like him in your side.
Oh, yeah.
And Rory Sloane had 83 points. He's getting more inside time. So he was on the wing the first couple of weeks, had 8 CBAs. He played in the inside last week against Port in the showdown as well. So did Jordan Dawson, but he's too good for the podcast.
Surely no one wants Rory Sloane.
I probably do, to be honest, because my 8th...
Who has him? Trade him instantly to have.
Because I am rotating Xavier Dersma or Jai Caldwell or someone in my M7 spot.
Why do you don't want my beautiful David Swallow?
I do. I just don't want to give up a forward for him. That's all.
Safe as houses.
I'll take him off. Yeah, we'll find it. We'll get a deal done. All right. I want David Swallow because I want someone who can just get like 60 to 70 each week. So I'm not rolling those guys who go 40 stuff. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I'll take him in my M7 for sure. I just need to get the right trade done. You're just not having one of my forwards.
Put something forward to me.
I will. Some scoring bumps that might happen that happened on the weekend and might continue. So Brodie Smith had 87 points, and I think this was more of a Jordan Dawson in the midfield type thing. He's kind of using a lot more of the distribution, more kick-ins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, just keep your eye on Brodie Smith. Jermaine Jones had 83 points with Witherden out. He scored pretty well, but that was a concussion protocol, so he'll probably be back this week if they decide to bring him straight back in. But if he's out, look to stream, I think, Jermaine Jones again next week. And I think Connor McKenna with his 81 points with Rayner going back forward, that really helped him this week, I think, as well. Would you agree?
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah,
definitely did.
Yeah.
And McKenna found a fair bit of appeal on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly.
He was more than impressive.
Yeah, so I think that can continue if they keep Rayner forward. I think McKenna is one that you could probably start bringing onto your fields with a bit more confidence. That is. All right, we'll get on to the listener questions for the week. First one comes from @MajorVanBam. Who's a better waiver pickup, Draper or Finlayson, Kaes?
Draper.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think who will actually deliver better scores? I think it'll be Finlayson, but I just worry about his week in, week out performance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's a few factors. So it looks good on the weekend, but let's remember there was no key defenders left, or only Rampy, but he doesn't really play that tall anyway. So all the key defenders got injured. He scored well. Mitch Georgiades is a player that Port need to play, or they're going to lose him. They're going to have to trade him, or he was going to request a trade, basically. So factor that in some stage of the year, Mitch is going to have to come back in, I think, and they're going to have to give him one more crack at cementing his spot. And I think just Draper, for the future, he's got a number one ruck role tied down. So that's why I think Draper is probably the best one out of the two of those. Even though Finlayson might pop up some good scores, I think you're going to get more games out of Draper, and long term, you're going to win with Draper, I think. Kilimanjaro FF, he's rehashing from last week. Now, I fucked this up last week, I think. So he said, is Rory Laird still worth a first round draft pick? And I took that as, would you trade next year's first rounder for Rory Laird? But I think he means, is he worth picking up in a startup keeper league draft? Do you take Rory Laird, in the first round?
I think statistically you would.
But right now, after we've seen the first 3 rounds, only one score over 100, averaging 80-something.
People loved him.
He's 30. I think
to be honest,
30.
I was cold on him in the preseason, wasn't I?
Well, if you looked, I went back and looked at our startup mock draft. He only just scraped in the first round.
Yeah.
So I was
never going to touch him in my first round.
Yeah,
he was never going to make it because his age, and I actually just think that he's not. He's a good footballer, yes, but he's not like the footballer that's going to carry the Crows to their next flag.
He's a good player in a shit side, but when Crows are actually up and about, they don't need him because they're not trying to just force contest after contest after contest. Not this year anyway. They're trying to actually get the ball quickly to their forwards who can actually, Texas playing well. When Fogarty's in, he's actually a decent forward. Now they got Rankin who can kick goals. They're not trying to just kind of force contests and slow the game down. They're actually trying to attack and try to win games. And I think last year it was really good for Laird because he could just it'd be, ball up, tackle, 4 points, go again. Ball up, tackle, 4 points, go again. Ball up, get a kick, a scrubby kick away. And in this chain of play, he's suddenly, got 12 points or whatever. Yeah. Whereas now it's if they don't move the ball quickly away, he doesn't score type thing. Yeah. So yeah, I think I think he's a second round pick still, but yeah, at the moment, because he's still capable of huge ceilings, we've seen. But I think for consistency, I wouldn't be going him.
But once again, I don't think like it's panic stations of trading anymore.
It's not.
You know, like it's just like he's had a few bad games and things could change quite quickly in that Crows midfielder. For me, for longer term, he was probably never in my selections anyway for a first rounder.
For those playing rolling lockouts, I still find it very hard not to have a VC on him each week because if he pops, and it's like
his
game
big
over.
scores. His big scores are huge.
It's game
like
over
what
when it does.
happened? What round 2, round 3 was it? Yeah. And that's almost a win for most sides.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. 300 points off the bat if you've got a captain.
Correct.
On
It's
there.
just playing smart.
Yeah. At Richie96, do you buy Jason Horne-Francis stocks now, knowing he'll be a slow burn until 2024? What do you think, Kaes?
I don't know if I've been overly impressed with what I've seen from him this year. Like, he's shown some really nice glimpses, but do I think he's going to put 4 quarters of footy together and be, Patrick Dangerfield?
It's more so, do you think he's going to be Patrick Dangerfield in next year, the year after that, year after that?
No.
Patrick Dangerfield's a very slow starter when you think about it, fantasy-wise especially. And if he plays a similar type game, I think yes. Like, I reckon if you can buy low now, it's the perfect time to do so.
You're going to get low though.
Yeah, no one's going to sell him low. That's a thing. But there's a lot of if you listen to the traders and the classic crowd and whatever. There's a lot of negativity towards him in his fantasy game, just wanting so much more from him now.
No shit.
So
fucking classic ruins all of fantasy.
It's the original. It's original and it's good.
Oh, that's not good.
But anyway, I was going to say original the best, but I don't actually agree with that.
Thank God.
But yeah, no, I do think Horne-Francis is worth investing in now if you can get him. Don't expect forward status.
If you can get him cheap off some guy who loves classic more than draft and is just fed up with him because he's not scoring 100, which he never was going to, then go for it.
Well, some people might be thinking as well, he's not going to lose forward status next season. It's going to be a low average. He might be in a team that's in the window. Who knows? But if you can get him, I reckon he's worth investing in, I think.
Speaking of classic, I've heard from sources that this show's getting very classic-y. Is that true?
No, absolutely not. That person just said things because he knew you hadn't been listening for weeks. There's barely been a mention of classic.
Good.
There's maybe been a few times where every guest I've had on, I've just mentioned that I'm higher ranked than them because they've generally come from a classic background, but that's probably about it.
That's just more to feed your ego, which is correct. Which is on brand.
It's not big enough as
continue.
It is. At Beggo's Boys, is Thilthorpe going to be a literal fantasy stud? Goals or no goals, he scores.
I think he's going to be a very good player.
If he gets a number 1 ruck role, which I think he does in the future, I think he's going to be a good scorer.
If he's going to be a number 1 ruck, sure.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to use him as a key forward.
You don't?
No, because I think they'll use Gallant and...
who would you rather... If you're a Crows player, who would you rather go and see at full forward, Gallant or Thilthorpe? It'll be
Thilthorpe now, but I'm thinking more when Rob retires, would you rather see Strawn in the ruck or would you rather see Thilthorpe in the ruck?
Strawn and Rob are the same age.
That's true. So they'll retire at the same time. So they got no one in the waiting in the wings.
No, but
so Thilthorpe, you're going to have him.
Are they going to play #Moneyball and just get some ruckman in?
No, they probably could, but I don't know. I think he's too good. You want that extra midfielder as your ruckman. I think he's got good skills. He's good around the ground. I think he can play that kind of extra midfielder as a ruck.
You say that, and so who would be the similar matchup like Luke Jackson, who's genuinely a big, tall midfielder in a way?
Maybe Tim English, really?
But they don't have enough. Their forward craft is nothing compared to what Riley Thilthorpe's is.
Yeah, that's true.
Like a guy who can kick 5 or 6 goals
at the same time. Ron Marshall was a good forward, but they still have to play him in the ruck. They could play another ruckman there.
They've also got Max King and Tim Membry down there. Where Fogg is good, but who else is tall? Tall.
Yeah, Gallant's shown signs, but
I think his value is too high as a key forward who can pinch hit in the ruck if need be.
I hope he rucks anyway.
I think you can get a makeshift ruckman recycled easily. Yeah. I don't think you can get a Riley Thilthorpe easily.
Key forwards like Lukosius, for example, you want him as a key forward because he's just a freak. So, yeah. Anyways, Nathan Ayres wants Chase Jones. Is Chase Jones worth a look with his defender status? Probably not at this stage.
Wouldn't have thought.
If he backs it up, if he somehow gets a game this week and backs it up for sure, I think he's going to come straight back out though. But we'll wait and see.
He's always shown glimpses, but never actually followed through, unfortunately.
Correct. Anyways, that wraps it up. Under an hour this week, Kaes. Well done. I think we 2GP'd, so 2G4P'd so many last week, it wiped a few out. But anyway, get around us on our socials at Keeper League Pod Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. Get around our sponsors, Manscaped. Use Keeper20 at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Also, make sure you're playing Game Day Squad, a new way to play fantasy football.
Has it updated yet?
Probably not. No Game Day Squad, but give it till tomorrow, I reckon. And look for my name in the top 10 leaderboard for sure. And get around our membership program if you want to support the podcast. Anything you want to plug, Kaes? What have you been up to? Read your articles.
My articles are fucking fire.
Get around you on Twitter. You don't need a blue tick to get followers.
Blue ticks are fucking for losers. Now, some good scores from the weekend in the twos, actually, Heff.
Okay, yeah.
Toby McLean, 171.
I did see that.
Josh Fahey, 130
Your boy.
something. My
Yep.
boy.
Yep. I'll make sure they read your article and get around those scores because, yeah, definitely some players worth
Will
looking at.
Brody, 122. Could he be back?
Could be. Oh.
Jared Lyons, 142 for all the haters out there.
He's never... Yeah,
Jared Lyons coming back in and scoring well.
There is no way McCluggage can't even get a kick, so there's no way Lyons is coming in.
Lyons back and beautiful.
We're wrapping it up here. I'm just wary about the theme song. I might not have long enough to run if we keep going here. So, all right, we'll talk to you next week. See you later.
See you, everyone.
Classic. Do you want to just go straight into waivers?
Sure.
Just save this.
Guys like that who use the footy really well, they're the kind of players that teams will look to, to be their distributors or their main ball.
He's too goal dependent. Yeah, cool. See you, peeps, on the stream.